Hey friends, happy Friday. I wanted to quickly do a Friday Reads video. So before we get into what I'm currently reading, let's talk about what I read ever since the last video I posted, which was Sunday evening, and it was part 2 of my Contemporary-a-thon vlog. So since then, I got in this really big mood of wanting to read novellas. So I read 2 novellas back to back. The first one is Grow Something, and this is by Christina C. Jones. Christina C. Jones is a Black romance author that I've heard so much about. I'm pretty sure my friend Isabel from Happy for Now and Stephanie from Steph's Romance Book Talk, I'm pretty sure they've both talked about her recently. And so I was in the mood for novellas. I got on Kindle Unlimited, I typed her name in, and she has a lot of books out there. And I went with this one, and this follows Hudson and Summer. And at the beginning of the book, Hudson is ditched on his wedding day by his bride-to-be, and he's really just grieving. He's really having it hard, but at the same time, he's just like, our relationship was over a long time ago. So really, the bride kind of took charge of her own happiness, and unfortunately, like, Hudson is ditched, but they both kind of dodged a bullet. But he's grieving, and he's like, where can I go to get my mind off of this? And he thinks about Summer's market. So Summer owns this market where you can purchase vegetables, you can plant some vegetables at the market and just kind of keep an eye on them while they're in the process of growing, and then come and get them whenever they finally grow. It's just, it sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds like a really chill spot. And so he goes there because he's just like, I don't know her that much, but she's always been really nice to me. So he goes, and this kicks off their romance. I think my favorite part of this romance is how Summer uses the process of growing something to help Hudson deal with his grief. He loves spinach. He's always coming in and purchasing spinach, and she's just like, you should plant some of your own. And it really teaches him how to be patient. It's really fun. It's really sexy. I really loved the setting of the book being in like a farmer's market setting. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward to reading some more Christina C. Jones in the future. Next, I read Beyond Time by J.A. Armstrong. Oh my goodness, you guys. I loved this book so much. This is another novella. It's about 108 pages. It's a female-female romance, and it's like paranormal fantasy, and it follows our heroine Mercy. And at the beginning of the book, you meet Mercy, and you learn that she's like a news correspondent. She's a journalist, and she's exhausted. She doesn't want to admit it, but she's exhausted. And one of her coworkers, Graham, he knows that she has some leave coming up, and he's just trying to persuade her, rather than sit on your couch and order takeout and watch TV, you should get away from the city. So she ends up going to her aunt's cabin up in Maine, where they spent a lot of summers while she was growing up. And one thing about Mercy is she's always had these dreams. At like certain times of her life, she'll have these constant dreams of this woman. And when she gets to the cabin, she's staring out at the stars, and she notices that in the nearby lake on an island, there is a light that's flashing. And she's like, nobody said that anyone else would be out here, kind of thing. So she makes it up in her mind that the following day she'll go explore. So she goes, and it gets really foggy all of a sudden. She can't see in front of her, and then all of a sudden this woman pops out of nowhere and is like, here, I'll help you. And she takes her to this cabin that's on this island that growing up Mercy and her family always said was haunted, and it's like done, and it's beautiful, it's been renovated, and she's just like, this does not sound right. So that's where kind of the ghost story element comes into it, but it's really this really romantic and beautifully written story about 2 women who, at the time that they were falling in love with each other and that they were in love with each other, that was just totally unacceptable. And the heroine is Brenna. She is the ghost woman, and she was married at the time, and her husband was off at war, and it's just not the right time, unfortunately, for them to be together. And it's just this really amazing story of how love transcends time, and if you believe in that kind of thing, people do find their way back to each other. I loved this. I mean, it was incredible to be like an 108 page book. I absolutely could have read like 200 more pages of it. I did feel like the ending dragged just a little bit. Like, it was one of those situations where I was fine at one point, and I was like, please let this be the end. Please let this be the end. And then there was like 10 or 15 more pages, and I was like, we should have just stopped it like 10 pages ago. But overall, it was really good. If you're in the mood for like a really good paranormal romance that's also a quick read, I cannot recommend this one enough. Next, I read Big Bad Cowboy, and this is by Carly Bloom. I am totally going to do a cowboy romance recommendations video. I've gotten hit up a couple of times asking for that. I just felt as though all of the cowboy romances that I was reading were all parts of the same series, and I just kind of thought that was a dumb idea. But I have a couple more titles on my shelf, and that is definitely coming. But I loved this one so much. It is book 1 in the Once Upon a Time in Texas series, and it follows Maggie and Travis. Travis has recently separated from the Army, and he has temporary custody of his nephew, Henry. Henry's mom has passed away, and his father, which is Travis's brother, is in jail, and he's a total douchebag. He's a horrible father. And so it's Travis and Henry. Travis has no idea what he's doing as a dad, but he just really grows to love Henry, which is super cute. And he realizes, like, I don't know what I'm doing, but this kid is better off with me than like being with somebody else. And Maggie is not really a fan of Travis's. So with Travis coming back into town, the family ranch that he's like taking over is really back in taxes. His father was not paying his taxes like he was supposed to. So he needs money. And so he's taking landscaping jobs, and this causes a problem for Maggie because she's been the hometown sweetheart doing all of the landscaping work. So she feels like Travis is taking work from her. However, she does not realize that one night on Halloween, when there's a Halloween party and she goes to this party dressed as Little Red Riding Hood and has a one-night stand with the big bad wolf in a shed, she does not learn until later on in the book that this was in fact Travis. What Carly Bloom does in this book is she does a wonderful job of creating so many instances for Maggie to find out that the like anonymous stranger that she had sex with and has been sexting is in fact Travis, but it just always falls through. And I feel like for some people that would be frustrating, but it just made this book so fun. I really enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to continue on with this series. So as far as my current reads, I'm currently reading Garlic and Sapphires, The Secret Life of a Critic in Disguise by Ruth Reichel. It feels as though I read my first Ruth Reichel back in January, but I checked Goodreads and it was in fact the very beginning of February. It was the first book that I read. So this is book 2 by Ruth Reichel this month. And I feel like I'm loving this one a little bit more than Save Me the Plums, which was the first title that I read by her. This one is just really a collection of essays basically showcasing her going to different restaurants in New York City in disguise, writing reviews on these restaurants. And what I love so much about it is like literally the first story is about a restaurant that she went to. It's this really big like French restaurant that always gets really good reviews. She's so honest. She's like, really, your experience with this restaurant depends on who you are. One of the times that she goes like 3 or 4 times. She goes disguised as like this Midwestern housewife who her husband has money and they come to New York City like once a year. She wears some clothes that makes it look like she has a little bit of weight on her. She puts this like curly haired wig on, and they treat her like garbage. And then she goes, the next time that she goes with some really known like New York journalists, and their experience is totally different. They're completely whisked past everybody else that's been waiting in the lobby for like 45 minutes. They get the really good table, they get really good treatment, and she's just, in her review, she's really honest. She's like, it really depends on who you are. It's really interesting to see the different characters that she comes up with, and she really gets into the part. She kind of falls in love with the idea of being someone else and then trying out these restaurants, and it's really fascinating. I think if you're any kind of reviewer, obviously she's a reviewer of food, but just anyone that enjoys reviewing things, I think reading stuff like this is just really interesting. So as far as what I plan to pick up this weekend, I plan to read Mermaid End by Jenny Holiday, which is a Matchmaker Bay novel. I don't know much about this. I know it follows Eve and a police chief, Sawyer Collins, and it sounds like Eve goes home or she inherits an inn, which is one of my favorite storylines. I love when our heroine inherits like an inn or a bed and breakfast or a cafe or something. I'm trying to go into this one knowing the least amount as possible, but I do know that my friend Lisa loves this author, so I'm really looking forward to it. I have a library book that I really want to get to, and that is Lunch in Paris, a love story with recipes by Elizabeth Bard. Basically, from what I gather with this one, Elizabeth Bard goes to Paris. She sits down to have lunch with a Frenchman, and she never leaves, and it's just her memoir about love and food in Paris, and I'm really excited. And on my Kindle, I have The 2-Date Rule by TAWNA FENSKE, and this comes out February 25th. This is an arc that I got from Entangled, I believe. This one is really good so far. I'm only like 2 chapters into it, but it follows Willa and Grady, and Willa has this like, I go on 2 dates with people and that is it. Like, she's finally got the job that she wants and she doesn't want any distractions, and Grady comes along and he kind of has this no strings attached policy as well, but they have 2 really good dates, so he comes up with these random ideas, like things we can do that we don't have to consider dates kind of thing. It's a lot of fun, and I'm hoping that I can get this one finished this weekend. That is what I am currently reading, and as well as what I have recently read. Let me know down in the comments below what you are currently in the middle of. I would love to hear. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in my next video. Have a great day. Bye.